Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joey. Pleasure to be here.
Good. Well, I appreciate you coming down all the way from London. Have you been to meet anyone today? Or?
Yeah, I had an overnight stay. I was fortunate enough to go and see one of our clients and then have dinner with a prospective client. So it was a good trip up.
Perspective, right? And any clues as to the arena they play in, or
eCommerce?
Ecom.
Yeah. I don't really want to say any more than that at this stage.
No, got you. Well, look, thanks for coming on. I like to kick it off just by, I guess, understanding or letting the audience understand your journey so far. So, at what point were you in life when you became a major business leader, and then at what point would you say you knew you were going to be like a major business leader?
That's a really difficult question to answer because I don't think anybody ever starts off wanting to be or thinking they're going to be a major business leader. I've been really fortunate that I've had over 30 years in an industry that I fell in love with, and the last 20 of which have been bordering on e-commerce. So if I think back to my childhood days with my father being a newsagent and running convenience stores, my journey through the customer cycle has always been there. And in the old days of B2B, you'd go and see customers, home delivery. What's that? The catalogs do that. Nobody else. Freeman's, get your Freeman's catalog to your home. We only do B2B. But then the world started to change. And people forget the world started to change a long time before COVID. The B2C revolution was already there. This bringing up of the home delivery network that then became Yodel. Even in days before that, you had like White Arrow. Yeah. And that was the birth really of the delivery to home networks with the catalogs.
Got ya.
But the internet came along and we all got technologically able and everybody shoved their face in a phone for 8 hours a day. And I guess it just morphed into where we are today. So the journey that I had was starting with B2B. Yeah. It was going 20 years with one company, Target Express, which then got bought out by CityLink. And it was at the point that I was in CityLink that I moved into e-commerce and I started working with brands and retail, delivering to the home. And at that stage, it was probably a morph of the B2B experience that we tweaked to go to the home, because before then, as I said, everybody wanted to stay away from the home. They thought it was costly and people weren't going to be in, you weren't going to be able to get a signature. So moving into that arena was really interesting for me, and I began to really get very comfortable with buying online myself. Everything I buy now is online. I was very comfortable with talking to customers and to consumers about what they wanted. And I was really lucky to join a company called Collect Plus in its very early birth stages, which was the first real returns proposition that the UK had. And that really immersed me into e-commerce. I mean, persuading retailers to allow somebody to leave a £300 leather jacket at a corner shop that allegedly a van would pick up and take it back to the retailer was hard going. Yeah. But I had a great team and we went out there, we talked to retailers. Collect Plus is now part of the Yodel group and part of the PayPoint group. But of course you've got Every. You've got Every, who are leading the way with their parcel shops. You've got the mega InPost business now that has come in with their lockers. Really great offer, helped very much by Vinted, but they've merged with the Yodel group and they're becoming one. So it's all about making it convenient for the consumer. If you and I are happy to buy online, you and I want to be happy to return conveniently for ourselves. And even you want to be able to buy conveniently, be it delivered to your house, delivered to a post office, a shop, a locker, somewhere that you're going to be able to get to relatively easy, pick your parcel up and move on with your life.
I think I'm a late adopter, to be honest. I still get nervous about the returns bit. I prefer just, do the whole retail, take it back to the shop rather than, the go to the corner.
But you live in lovely Manchester, where it's easy. I mean, there's more shops per square foot here than I've even seen in London. I mean, this is a shopping mecca, and I totally understand it. But where you're in more rural towns and market towns and smaller cities, it isn't so convenient to go into town. Lots of towns now don't have a town. Their town is turned into vape shops and charity shops, and some of them are not even very nice places to go to. And while everybody thinks that the high street is dead, nothing is ever dead. You just have to reinvent it. You have to make the high street something else. But you also have to separate the high street away from e-commerce and online shopping.
Got you.
Because I don't think the two are ever going to be linked again. You're never going to spend a Saturday, as I did when I was a kid, getting on the bus with my friends and spending most of the day in town with about £2 in my hand and coming home with carrier bags full. That doesn't happen anymore. You still come home with loads, but you sit online and fill baskets. But trying to make town centres what they were isn't the answer. Make town centres something new and something different. And allow the evolution of retail to continue. Because trust me, the stuff that we send out of the United Kingdom for retailers is phenomenal. Everybody talks about Shein and Temu and about the volume of traffic coming in from China. The UK really holds its own, and the volume of traffic that we pump out of the UK to America, Europe, the Far East, even the Middle East. Phenomenal. Australia, massive market. Still love buying from the United Kingdom. The USA, even under tariffs and the complexities that they brought in, huge market. They still love buying from the United Kingdom. The same with the Middle East. The same with Singapore, Hong Kong.
Well, I definitely want to touch into returns, and I definitely want to touch into the international market. But just before we get into it, you mentioned Target going into CityLink. At what point were you, let's say, an IC, individual contributor, then jumped into actual management leadership?
I guess when I became the leader of the strategic sales team focused on e-commerce at CityLink is where I really got my mojo from. It was new, it was different. We were chasing volume clients, clients who, would fill an Arctic at least once a half a day and push that out into the network, and we would deliver it, producing that volume, but also producing the service. And going from that into Collect Plus was probably the moment that you're referring to, is probably the moment when I thought, this is new. This is something that interests me. This is something that I'm good at. And it's something that I can talk confidently to other people about. And it was at that point that I probably thought, this is where I want to make the rest of my career stick.
Put a stake in
and become not just somebody who'll sell parcels, but become an expert in the ability to influence the customer journey.
Got you. And how many people were you managing before you went from CityLink to Collect Plus?
Oh, good grief. I've
circa
my history of management roles has been everything from a salesperson to a general manager running a depot to functional roles. So I guess the most people I probably managed was 132 when I was a general manager of a depot in Target Express. That was part-timers and full-timers. And it fluctuates after that between 10 and 12. And to be honest with you, managing big teams is not the holy grail. Managing right-sized good teams is the skill. Just because you've got 50 salespeople doesn't mean you're going to bring on any revenue if they all just go out there and miss the mark. Managing a team of 2, 3, 4 people who understand the proposition, understand the company, understand the customer requirements is far more successful. So no, I never look to manage hundreds and hundreds of people. 3 or 4 these days, perfect.
It's interesting you've said you come from like the GM background before going into sort of sales. Like for the people I speak to, I'm always getting from if an MD saying, "Hey Joe, you need need a strong sales leader." If ever I get someone with ops experience or ops comes from originally an operations background, it's almost like they naturally become a much better salesperson because of it, because they've not they're not talking crap really. They're just they've lived it, they've seen it, they can give a like a good real account in front of customers as to what the operation looks like from the side to the proposition. And I guess for people listening then, Target Express, CityLink, I think they're even before my time. So
I am that old.
Who would you compare them to today?
There is nobody. There is nobody to compare those two. CityLink, any other carrier.
Yeah.
Target Express, not. Target Express was a unique business, a very unique business. When I joined Target Express, the slowest service we offered was next day delivery before noon.
Oh, really?
Not even next day. So you couldn't have a next day delivery. It was before noon because the premise of Target was deliver in the morning, collect in the afternoon.
Yeah, got you.
And, next day delivery would cost 10, 11, 12 pounds.
Right.
As next day was bought in, 30 quid for a before 9 o'clock delivery.
Yeah.
You're not going to get those rates nowadays. It's just not going to happen. But that's where my foundation in the logistics industry started, because I was the first salesperson to be given a chance in Target Express, because ops and sales, horrible, never a twain shall meet. But I was fortunate enough that my sales director, a sterling gentleman called Peter Newmark, gave me the opportunity and stuck his neck on the line, probably at the behest of his two colleagues, Ian Sharp and Ray Griffiths, to become the general manager of Target Express Gatwick.
Got you.
And even amongst my contemporaries in the operation, it was scratch the salesperson's got a depot.
Yeah.
And it took some time to be able to demonstrate and show that just because you're from a sales background doesn't necessarily mean you can't learn an operation. And that then moved into developing some reporting structures for that business and moving out into a functional role to help the operation build. And I even spent a number of years in IT. So I went from sales to operations to IT and then back to sales again. But the benefit of doing the operation, the IT, and a bit of finance as a discipline is you do understand the business and you do understand where the key points of the business have to meet to be able to do what's right for the business in terms of profitability, as well as doing what's right for the customer in terms of service and experience. So I would say that any salesperson that's had a background in sales and another discipline inside their organisation will make a far better salesperson in the long run. Because it's not about sales, it's about solution solving.
Got you. And you mentioned you've gone from, ops, commercial, IT, back into was there ever like a crisis moment? Was there ever like,
My whole life has been a crisis. I think imposter syndrome sits with you every time you do something outside of the box. Of course, we didn't know what imposter syndrome was in those days because it hadn't been tagged yet. But you reflect and you think, will I do the right thing? Will I make the right decision? And I don't think that's changed today. I think people today still have that will I, won't I, how can I about them. It's just we don't tend to verbalize it as much these days. We all have to be strong and if we're going to have a mental health crisis, we stick a little label on it and pop it in a box. But it's just about working through it. It's about learning a business. It's about learning something you don't know. It's no difference than being at school and learning maths. You learn a business. It's a different kind of subject. And that will make you stronger in the long run, because the more you learn about a business, the more understanding you have of what that business does. The more you learn about your customers, the more understanding you have about how that business and that customer can work together.
And was it a case of someone let you look behind the curtain and say, look, Paul, I know you want to do this, but this is the effect. It's, did someone almost take you under their wing to say, let me show you the knock-on effect of these decisions or these things you're trying to do out in the field, because it's going to have a knock-on? Or did you just have to put two and two together, almost do the maths to work out like the GP, the profit,
No, not really, because a lot of that was hidden in those days. A lot of it was, particularly with Target Express being at that stage a privately owned company with the three founders, you don't need to know how much money we make. You just need to know we make money, or you just need to know you need to do something different to make a better contribution from your depot. I mean, you've got to remember, this was a long time ago. This is when I would change a light bulb in a warehouse ceiling by standing either side of the prongs on a fork and being lifted up.
Right.
I mean, you did that today, you'd probably have the police round. It was a very different time then. It was about making things done, and you put one and one together a lot. Sometimes you made three,
Yeah.
Sometimes you make 5, but hopefully if you got it right, you'd make 2. And you'd move the business forward, you'd move the operation forward, you move the sales forward, you move the customers forward. But it was very much suck it and see, trial and error.
I mean, that's where it comes. The curiosity comes from. It's just I speak to so many salespeople, and as much enthusiasm as they might have, to have like I guess a bigger impact in their org, they almost need to be able to understand the behind the scenes, maybe to go and impact that side of it. Yeah, it just sounds like you were, that might have been one thing that you've like unlocked or, were able to do. So there was no, behind the scenes, come and have a look at this.
You pulled that curtain back yourself, and a lot of the time you got shouted to draw it again.
Yeah.
But you push and you push, and I was a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
I always asked questions. I always wanted to know how. I wanted to know why things worked. I wanted to know why things didn't work. I would have very strong and probably very incorrect opinions on things. But I think I had the foresight to push some of those opinions sometimes in the right direction when I knew that the world outside the business wasn't quite in line with the way that the business was talking, and that there had been a shift. And I've always been a tech geek. I've always loved new technology. I can always remember a story when I went for wireless headphones when they were an infrared thing. Brilliant if you're sat in front of your stereo, absolute nightmare if you turn your head and the sound breaks.
Yeah.
But trying stuff like that is what I've always done. And as we've moved into a more technological age, I think as an old bloke, I think that gives me a great stead, because I will still change my mobile phone every year, and I will still look in curries as kind of my playground, because I just like technology and I like the things it can do. But I don't like it for liking its sake. I like it for providing what it can provide these days.
Have you seen the Meta glasses?
Yes.
Are you going to get some?
No. I can't wear glasses on glasses. It doesn't work for me. The vision absolutely goes. And to put a prescription in those things I'm just not spending that sort of money.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm unsure as well myself.
I have TikTok. I have repetitive strain injury from doing that. That's fine for me.
No, I've got you. Okay, and then I guess into the current landscape changes, tariffs, everything going on in the US. What's been your sort of view on that for the last?
It's a huge change.
Yeah.
It's been a huge years of de minimis, under $800, get it into the States, no problem at all. Off you go. Then you bring in tariffs, and you don't just bring in tariffs, you bring in complex tariffs that in some circumstances you might even view as punitive, particularly when you have set a manufacturing base up in a country that is then hit very hard by tariffs.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a $20 T-shirt in the States becomes $50.
Yeah.
How do you square that with the American consumer?
Yeah.
So it has been very complicated. I'm very lucky to work with a business that looks at these problems and works out solutions. OCS, for example, on the day of Brexit, were one of the only carriers, if not the only carrier in the UK, that was still shipping its customers' freight across into Europe, because they'd worked the Brexit thing through before it got there and had a solution. And similarly with the USA, we'd done a very similar thing. Talked to the relevant parties, talked to lawyers. We have our own lawyer in the USA. Talked to the Customs and Border Protection team that ran this, understanding what their interpretation of the tariffs were and what they were looking to get out of it and how that would be managed.
Got you.
And working on solutions that would enable UK retailers to continue shipping to America and work with the tariffs, as opposed to just wonder how they're going to survive them.
Yeah.
And working with those tariffs, particularly with the new tariffs and the changes coming up in Europe, is the only way that you can move forward. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You need to make sure that you understand what the impact of that is on your business, how that will affect your customer, and try to work to mitigate those issues from that point onwards.
I mean, I see loads of, the leaders of, cross-border companies, international, express companies, almost doing daily reports on the tariffs on LinkedIn, and obviously to just try and help customers from a knowledge perspective. But like, do these brands, would you say these brands are reliant on their logistics partner to be the authority on the matter, or do they, would they go to some kind of other party to get information or accurate information to assess business?
I think it's very much dependent on where that business is in its growth cycle in that territory. A lot of businesses, small, medium enterprises, they will rely on the carrier to give them advice.
Yeah.
What you've got to remember is carriers are not lawyers. They're not customs people. We're very fortunate that we do have a customs department in OCS, so we kind of understand the impact that it's going to have. But it's always, it's when you are shipping overseas, it's your responsibility. At the end of the day, you are shipping a parcel to a consumer overseas. The responsibility to make sure that you are shipping that compliantly falls on you. It doesn't fall on the carrier. It doesn't fall on anybody else. If the carrier gives you bad advice and you accept that advice, you may have a conversation with the carrier about giving you bad advice, but ultimately that decision lies with you as the exporter. It's your responsibility. A lot of companies who are used to shipping internationally, particularly to complex areas as the States has become now, have their own businesses, have their own lawyers, have their own experts in country that can advise them in the UK of what to do. And I would advise any business to always seek advice, seek independent professional advice on any subject to do with compliance and shipping that they have an issue with, so that they then have a basis. If anything does go wrong, they have taken formal advice and can refer back to it.
Is there anyone or any body who you would suggest actually this would be a good place to go for formal advice? Or
no, I can't really give that advice for that same reason. You would have to find somebody, any good customs lawyer in the States, customs attorney in France or in Europe would be able to advise you on how the implications of the legislation are being viewed in country and what the expectation of that country is.
Got you.
And if you ship compliantly towards that expectation, you're not going to go wrong.
Got you.
So, I'm not a lawyer. I can't advise.
Yeah.
I can give you examples of situations that we've seen and what the outcomes of those situations were, good or bad. But no, I can guide, but I can't advise.
Got you. And I guess before the whole Trump tariffs, situation had come up, was there any countries that were difficult before that? Yeah, was there any destinations really difficult to ship to for any other complex, reasons or compliance issues?
No destination was difficult to ship to. Every destination had their different requirements for imports. Some destinations have de minimises, which means you can import to those companies or export to those countries without paying duty on the value of the goods, depending on what the de minimis is. Some countries required a tax ID from the individual that's having the goods delivered to them. So that's a challenge. Some companies have very low de minimises.
Yeah.
Take Canada, for example. Most of the Canadian population already know that a $28 Canadian de minimis isn't really going to get them much. And they pay all their duty online. They have an app and it's just seamless. It's what's expected in country. So shipping to Canada is relatively easy. There are duties, there will be taxes.
Yeah.
But the country understands that and the country knows that. So they are set up to be able to ship and shop internationally, but they know what their responsibility is as a consumer when the goods arrive in Canada.
Yeah.
Take the UK, for example. We had £135 de minimis. That's about to go. There's big changes happening in Europe this year with the €150 de minimis on the IOSS system. Countries are now going to start charging a fee for clearance. We know some of that's going to be by HS code. So if you've got a parcel at the moment going into Germany with 3 items in it, all of which the total value of that package is under €150.
Yes.
Today, you just put that in and pay the VAT remute that through the iOS system and carry on. Come the changes, if those are 3 different items, a pair of socks, a t-shirt and a jumper, they will have 3 different HS codes. And you will pay a fee per HS code, €3, probably. You've got €9 there before you pay for the shipping, before you pay for the VAT, before you've pay for any other expenses that you might incur. So there again are big changes coming along the line. Europe wants people to buy from within Europe. If you're not shipping Europe to Europe, then you're going to have the same kind of tariff structure coming in that you've got in the United States, albeit a fee-based structure. So we've got to make changes for that. We've got to be ready for that. Customers have got to understand that's coming down the line, and it could change again before we get there. So what's true today that you and I are talking about, if I was to watch this back, say in July, it could have changed again. Yeah. And I think, I remember when it was just that easy, and then it's changed again. Yeah.
No, I remember the shift with the US. It was, such a big, drop the mic moment for brands and e-com businesses. So, no, interesting. I guess, has there been any examples of where, because you mentioned earlier, you've got to, in effect, put the cost of that into some of the e-com pricing of product, $20 t-shirt to $50 and stuff. Was it ever a case like, did you work with any brands where it was just like, actually we can't do that, or it completely just, shot them out of the market? They had to go into liquidation or fail?
Nobody that's gone into liquidation because of the tariffs coming in. Right. There were some big shock moments in those tariffs. And I think the first thing the retailer has to decide is, am I absorbing any of this tariff cost, or am I passing it on to the customer? Yeah. Because that's only a decision that they can make. But we did work with one retailer who had an average basket value of, let's say, $160. Their goods were made in one of the highest tariff attracting countries, and their basket value went from $160 up to nearly $300. Right. So as an American consumer, you go to this particular brand, you're used to buying their product for $160, you feel that's value for money. You log on the day after the tariffs take effect, and that same blouse that you bought last week has suddenly become $300. That is going to affect your decision to buy as a consumer. Yeah. And that customer did see a significant drop in volume to the United States. Yeah. And I suspect that was repeated across the retail base. But that is a huge jump. And you can't pass on that amount of cost to consumers without there being a drop in your sales. Yeah. Because consumers are kind of like, wow, that's a big jump.
That's heavy.
Yeah, that's a big jump. I really don't need that blouse. Yeah. And they might shop somewhere else. But working through that solution to get to a place where you can service that customer at a price point that customer will still engage with you at is something that is very hard. You've got to decide the value of your brand, where it sits, and what people will pay for it.
Got you. Yeah. And talking through tariffs, HSS codes, everything like that, it seems quite complicated, let's say, for someone who's just been selling domestic. Yeah. Have you ever seen someone who's been in the market, they've sold domestic, and they've been able to jump into an international position and take on that knowledge, be able to be quite consultative on these kind of topics and be successful? Or, what are your sort of thoughts on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I go one step further than that and say that I have taken on somebody who has no carrier experience at all, but worked in retail. Right. So understands the problem from the retailer's perspective and is still able to have those conversations with other retailers about their experience and what our solutions to those experiences might be. So it's now very much about understanding the problem. It's not a sale. It's not, hello, how many parcels do you do? 50? Wow. How much do you pay? I'll do it for a penny cheaper. That kind of domestic selling doesn't work in international. Yeah. You need to understand the problem, understand what the customer's trying to achieve, what their growth plans are for a specific lane, what their goal is to reaching those, how you can support it, what their customer journey is like, what they want their customer to be able to do Do they want to offer returns? How do they want to offer returns? Are they going to provide a full package, etc., etc.? So the list is actually probably endless.
Yeah.
But understanding that from either an industry or a retailer perspective is absolutely fine. That they both have different sides to that. Retailers are great. When you talk to retailers, they'll tell you about their problems. They'll tell you about their issues. They'll tell you where their pinch points are. And if you can build a solution around those pinch points, then you can add value to that relationship with that retailer. And whether you sold domestic, whether you sold international, whether you come from a retail background, we are all retailers in our own right, because we sit down and we buy stuff and we make choices and we put value to the purchases that we make. So in our brains, we're already doing a lot of what it takes to be a good salesperson in an international environment. And if you understand that from the retailer's perspective as well, and you can talk to the retailer about it, and you can empathize with them and go, yeah, I really get that, then you stand a lot better chance of having a great relationship with a retailer than you do just by going in and trying to effectively buy the business, as the domestic market has been subject to for a number of years.
And then what would you say the blockers are for then a retailer to give you that kind of trust? You know, you've understood the problems, you've done everything right as a salesperson, comes to close, and, you know, is there anything you would say that or advice you would give that says, actually, you know, this is a great way to build that trust so that when you do get to the close, they're willing to give you the business?
Capability.
Okay.
Does that retailer have the capability to change carrier or to use something slightly different, or are they reliant on the current solution they have? Because going back to your point earlier, they get suggestions and advice from their current carrier that they rely on to make decisions. So capability is a huge part of it. Price, unfortunately, still plays a big part in cross-border shipping. I mean, it's a hangover from the domestic market, and you're never going to get away from that. And it's not being able to provide the customer journey, delivering inside of the promise that retailers make to their customers. Even internationally, some retailers will say it will be there in 3 to 5 days, and you look at them and you think, do you know how far away that is? And you go the wrong way. It's tomorrow there before we've even finished today here. So, you know, you're setting yourself up for failure. So it's understanding what that promise to the customer is. And it's understanding what the customer wants to buy. Why are they buying from the UK? Why are they buying a UK brand? Have they not got a similar brand in their own country that they can buy from? Britain, England, the whole UK is very fortunate to have some great brands here that resonate across the world. And I mean everyday brands, not your Versace, not your Gucci. Everyday brands that you and I might buy. Marks and Spencer's, Joules, Crew Clothing, Boohoo, ASOS, all of the brands that we've grown up with. And they're just normal, great brands that are either on trend, on quality, on condition, and on message for the way that people are living their lives. So just, you know, you just got to understand what's being sold, who's buying it, and why they want to buy it.
Got you. And then jump into returns. Where do you see returns at the moment? What's the, you know, what would you say the status quo is within returns? What kind of problems? Where's the market at for returns at the minute?
Returns are always going to be a fundamental part of the circular e-commerce requirement. How you manage those returns is currently in a bit of a change. I mean, ASOS are again in the news because they are doing what ASOS do best and lead the way forward in pushing those boundaries, and they are changing the way that they do their returns. You're being penalized, I guess is not too strong a word, if you send back too many returns. And even on the ASOS app now, it shows you whether you're a good returner or a bad returner. And that's great because returns cost money. You know, every time you do something for that customer journey, you are taking a little bit of the profit that you make out of those clothes away. So somebody who buys 50 shades of one t-shirt in 18 sizes is not the kind of customer that you want, because you know that you're going to get 49 of those items back. And that's a cost to you to rework them, repackage them, put them back out for sale, the cost of logistics moving forward. Exactly the same internationally, although obviously the costs are slightly raised because it's coming cross borders, and there is returns goods relief and all other wonderful stuff that's involved with bringing stuff back internationally. But international consumers want that full circular journey. They want to be able to do returns. They want to be able to send it back if it's not right. And they are still focused, the same as a UK consumer, on getting a quick refund back in their bank, enabling them to spend and shop again.
Yeah.
And breeding that brand loyalty by offering them just a great experience on buying and returning is the way I think that British brands have really knocked it on the head and totally understand that customer journey and want to keep that customer coming back to their website, want to keep that customer reordering.
Yeah.
And they appreciate that in that there will be a few returns. There always was in bricks and mortar. We always used to, I can remember mother, she used to go back to Marks and Spencer's with a return because she didn't like trying it on in the store. No different.
Yeah.
So I think there will still be a change. I think returns probably moving forward will gain cost attached to them, attached to the consumer. The consumer will either get a deduction from refund or have to pay for the returns, particularly if they're a bad returner.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that returns are there, the fact that returns are part of that customer journey is fundamental to any purchase decision.
Got you. And with the likes of Zigzag, Rebound, do you think, these guys seem to be smashing it in the, being a solution provider? Do you think there's room for other, smaller returns companies to come around, or... Yeah, is it almost that small of a? Well, I say that small. it's quite big, but yeah, is there room for more? Basically, is there more room for more Zigzags? Room for more Rebounds? Do you know any that are probably challenger brands to those kind of companies?
I think this is going to be consumer led again, and I think it's going to be convenience and retailer led again. So the initial answer to your question is yes, I do think there's room for more, but I think that room and that differential will be created by the same company that ships those goods out in the first place.
Right.
So if you take OCS, take my business as an example, we have a returns platform called Sibo.
Okay.
Send it back online. It's a free to use for the retailer platform that already holds all of the information from the outbound shipment to be able to offer the customer a return solution and allow them to choose what they're returning, either the socks, the T-shirt, the blouse. Yeah. And that's linked to the customer's own website. They're directed to Sibo. It serves them to our return partner in country. So if you take America, for example, it's the USPS. Customer has the choice to print off a label, take it to the post office, a locker, leave it in their post box at the end of their drive, take a QR code into a post office facility and get the label printed there. So it's really about extending what we know in the UK to be a great service back to customers who don't need to then bring in another service provider to be able to manage their returns. So if you can offer a single solution that is competitively priced and convenient for the consumer, that's the way I think that the returns market will develop.
So I guess we've talked about the US, we've talked about a lot of the UK retail and e-com. Are there any countries that you think are interesting at the minute?
A great one for us is Japan. We're very lucky that we've got very strong roots in Japan. Back in 1957, the history of OCS started in Japan as the world's best paperboy, effectively. And OCS Japan still plays a major part in the Asian continent now for e-commerce.
Yeah,
we've got a great solution to Japan with great returns, and it works again simply like I mentioned on the whole returns piece. We already have that information. It's delivered by OCS Japan. They pick it up if you want to return it. Comes back to the UK. And it's just one of those great mature cultures that is totally immersed in e-commerce. Although I will say also Japan has not fallen out of love with a Saturday afternoon trip to the town centre. They still are very big bricks and mortar shoppers as well.
Yeah.
But they've also adopted e-commerce and they are buying from overseas.
Yeah.
But mature territories like Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, funnily enough, and we have a great solution and service to New Zealand, America, Canada, the whole of Europe, obviously is a mature market, and the Middle East. The Middle East is very heavily e-com focused now. We get some great movement into the Middle East from some of our customers. They really are adopting the British brands and British way of shopping. So it's Africa. Not so much. We don't do very much to Africa at all. Obviously, Russia we don't do very much to for obvious reasons, but the rest of the world is just a high street. And it works like that. It's people will notice your brands wherever they are, and as long as you can service those customers, you can develop your brand in that territory.
And I mean, Dwayne mentioned it, like with China, he was talking about just just going to that country, the experience and seeing how they're doing it and what it looks like. What does that look like in Japan? As a consumer experience, because to give you an example, like the Nordics apparently are massive for Pudo, the locker pickup drop offs and stuff. Has Japan got their like little quirk, or is there anything that they're, if you went into Japan, it'd be like, expect to see this, or, expect to be surprised by this?
They're very big on vending machines. So obviously lockers over in Japan work well, but Japan's quite traditional. They like the delivery to the home or to the place of work. They're no different. They'll have it to the place that's convenient for them, and they will return it to a place that's convenient for them, be that a pickup or going into one of their version of parcel shops. So no, Japan are no different. They are, if you put Japan and England together, you wouldn't notice really any difference other than outbound from Japan is a lot of food.
Oh, really? Right.
A lot of food. A lot of Japanese. We're very lucky to have global head office in Japan. So we have some of the Japanese colleagues come over and spend time in the United Kingdom, and they bring food with them. And a lot of that food is freeze dried.
Right.
Add water and off you go. So Japanese food travels really well. And we have a few customers that we deliver to in the United Kingdom on behalf of Japan, and it's all boxes of food.
Right.
Japanese love their food. So that's the big quirk that I would say about Japanese outbound into the rest of the world. Food. If you're an expat from Japan, you'll love your home comforts.
Got ya. I guess to round off then, what do you think is, in the next 5 years, what do you think e-com and cross-border, we're going to see develop, or what would your predictions be?
You will still see a huge growth. It's the only growth area. The UK domestic market is saturated. We've had consolidation. You've now got 3 or 4 carriers all fighting for the same bit of business that's out there. So domestically, you're quite hand-tied. Internationally, you're not, because UK brands know how to sell their product abroad, and they will need it shipped there. So the growth area is definitely going to be internationally. I will caveat that with the change in regulations, because we've not finished. Countries are going to take lead from everything that's happened over the past year and realise that they also need to protect their own domestic market whilst being fair to an international market and fair to their own demographic in country. But there will be change, still more change coming on the legislation and the tariffs and the duty and the tax that you have to pay to ship outbound to the rest of the world. But e-com internationally is where the growth is at.
Mega. And then quick fire, who's the biggest brand you've sold into or brought on?
Me personally, where I have personally done the deal, Marks and Spencer's.
M&S.
Yes.
Their autograph range is great at the minute.
They are the nation's darling, aren't they?
And then another quick fire. What would you tell Paul Scratchley back at Target, just getting into it? What advice would you give to him?
Carry on enjoying what you're doing, because you'll spend a long time doing it, and it's worth getting to know it so that you can really get the best out of it. Which is what I think I did, but knowing that then would have been really good, as opposed to discovering it on the way. But just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Every day is different. How many people get to go to work and spend most of their day talking to shops and looking at stuff? It's just wonderful. It's a brilliant job.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant industry to be in. It's not messy. It's not horrible. It's not, I'm not getting into logistics and transport. It's really exciting and fast moving, and there's something to learn every day. So just enjoy it. Really enjoy it. And maybe take a few more risks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Paul. Been really good to have you.
Cheers, Joey.
Bro. There we go.